Welcome back to part 2 of my Grow Girls series. This one is called Sapling, and it's about years 4 through 11 in Jacksonville, Florida, and my time in public schools there, and about how I grew. You can follow me at We Can Be Awesome on Twitter, and this is a summary of my growth over those years. So previously, I was in a turnaround school due to poor test scores, and this meant that the state came in and they had all sorts of rules for us to follow. They said no inquiry, no transdisciplinary units anymore, no PYP. Our lessons were scripted. We had pacing guides that told us what to teach and when to teach it, regardless of the learners in the classroom. So needless to say, I felt like it was time for a change. I moved to a school with a similar student population socioeconomically, but with students from over 30 different countries. I taught standalone literacy there. This meant I had more freedom and therefore more success. I was able to do some school plays, and I put on The Wizard of Oz with my students, as well as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which led to some incredible parent involvement as well as some really immense pride in my students. Following in the footsteps of Loriascus, I created my own reading comprehension character named Captain Caption, who was a pirate who taught about text features, and a professor a la Albert Einstein who focused on research. This helped me be recognized as Teacher of the Year in 2013 and 2014 and make it to the top 15 in my county of over 100 schools. And I know it sounds like I'm bragging there, but I am pretty proud of that. I also had a Hogwarts-themed classroom, which was in the newspaper because it was kind of a unique approach to classrooms at the time. We had a state test in grade 3, and to drum up enthusiasm about it, my partner and I dressed up as Army generals and put out a boot camp, which really got everybody excited, which you didn't think was possible about state testing. I think. Any good gardener will tell you that in order for a plant to grow, it needs to also be pruned, so I had to figure out what practices to start cutting in order to help my students be successful. So one of the things that I stopped doing was ability grouping, which I thought led to limiting labels and a student's false impression of what they were able to accomplish. I also stopped teaching guided reading for absolutely everybody and switched instead to strategy groups so that the groups could be more mixed. I also stopped using worksheets in my literacy centers and switched them for more authentic literacy activities like letters to city council, researching topics, or working in a book club. And one of the biggest changes I made was stopping my use of the curriculum as like the gospel, because instead I could analyze students' data and figure out what they already knew and then develop mini lessons to address that. But obviously not everybody needs everything at the same time. I was working towards my national board certification, and that kind of led me to think that there must be a better way to personalize their learning, have it be more authentic, and make it so that my strategy groups could be more responsive to the daily needs of my students. So luckily, I have a teacher friend who shared my passion about finding a better way. We looked into a different approach called flipping the classroom. After a lot of meetings with a lot of stakeholders, we decided to pilot this for our school. If the concept of flipping the classroom is new to you, here's a brief summary. What you would teach in the whole group becomes a home learning video, and so the students go home and they watch the video that I had made. The video included the day's learning as well as questions I embedded into the video. These answers would then turn into data, so I could see which students were struggling and which ones were really excelling. I would then use that data to pull groups first thing in the morning to clear up any misconceptions or even to stretch my students a little bit further. The rest of the school day was used to apply their learning in authentic ways with me to support them. Students moved at their own pace, and because we didn't spend a lot of time at the front of the classroom with whole group lessons, other needs could be addressed. So we had split the students into their Hogwarts houses and had monthly house meetings where students could talk about things that they were struggling with or need support with, and so the other classmates were there to support them with that. We also were able to do more project-based learning, and so students were able to have book signings and They had a whole class election with full campaigns, debates, stump speeches, the whole 9 yards, and this was during 2016, so it was quite relevant at the time. The state testing also supported the efficacy of our approach because the results showed that 20% more of our students were proficient than in the other fourth grade classrooms. Meanwhile, I had started to think of another idea that would improve my own professional growth, and this was to think about learning outside of the United States and see what education was like outside of the mandates of high-stakes testing. And my husband had lived in Taiwan before, so we looked there first, but then I found out about a really interesting school in Vietnam. They were doing things like having mindfulness every day for 10 minutes to start their day. They had hands-on learning projects with makerspaces and an inquiry-based approach with their PYP. They were also trying things like a studio model to promote learner agency, and I'll talk about more about that in my next video. So in 2017, my time in Florida and in Duval Public Schools had ended, and I was off to Vietnam for the next stage of my journey. I'll talk about that in my next video. Until then, thank you for watching.